I've been giving this some thought over the last few days, in actual fact, and the problems are numerous. So some people complain that online agents are very difficult to get hold of in terms of sales progressions and exchanging information and so on. But equally, the problem can be laid at the door of solicitors and conveyancers as well, who are not very responsive. And you've got, cutting-edge factory solicitor operations. You've got dinosaur operators as well. So there's lots of firms operating, a very technology-focused proposition or a very personal-led proposition. So what we found, the only way to really navigate through all the different players in a long chain is to have somebody on the ground who's got a very close relationship with the vendor and the buyer, who is able to actually work with them and be responsive and talk to them weekends, evenings, daytime. So these are the guys that have sold the house for them and help them buy it as well. So the way EweMove works is that we provide a whole technology layer behind the scenes to support our franchisees so that they can spend the time with their clients. And actually that helps us get through pretty much 96% of the properties we sell through to completion in 6 weeks.
So you're...
Sorry, 60 days, yeah.
60 days, roughly, is your average at the moment?
Yep.
And what you're saying then is, what's key is you've got all the technology in the background, but actually you've got the human being or beings even, who are on the case all the time.
Yeah, well, I mean...
all the different players involved.
Yeah, I mean, the proposition for us is we have one person who deals with the sale. It's not a team of people that the vendor has to pick and choose about who they speak to and who might be available. It's the same person day in, day out. People who cover such a wide area arguably can't be that local. So, for EweMove, we have individual franchisees operating an area of 20,000 households, and they live in that area, so they are very local, and they know the schools, the kids go to schools, all this kind of stuff. So as far as we're concerned, our franchisees are absolutely local, both geographically and so on, in every sense of the word. But when you've got some of the online agents who are sending in people 40, 50 miles away and positioning them as local, you've got to question that just is not the right description. So how they get away with it and the fact that they're selling that to the public is potentially misleading, and that's not something that I would want to position EweMove brand in any way at all.
It damages the sort of reputation, doesn't it, of online estate agencies? Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, and people do have a kind of mixed understanding about what is online, what is hybrid, what is traditional high street, and as we've heard already, everyone's effectively an online agent because you're using RightMove and Zoopla and so on. But it is that personal touch and the personal interaction that holds people's hands. And you talked about people wanting to come into the branch. We'll go and sit in somebody's front room and actually talk to them when they're at home, they're not at work, and it's a right for them, and we'll support them through that sales process. So we are very local, and we're very proud of that. And we don't operate in any areas where we don't have a local franchisee. So I think the description that others use about local is potentially a problem. It's a very good question. And again, we work completely the other way around, so we don't charge a penny to get a house on the market, and we only ever receive any income when the property completes, which is why we're so focused on progression and completion. But for the agents who do charge up front, you do have to question what the motivation is. So they've already had the money. Some of the commentary from those guys recently has been around the fact that they want to succeed and get it through to completion because that's how they get feedback and that's how they can continue to cycle and grow their business. It's a fairly loose argument in my mind. But those vendors who believe that paying up front because they've got clarity and simplicity of access to that product or service, that's quite good. And I suppose from a traditional agency perspective, we'd have to ask ourselves the question that, if those guys have actually stolen a share of the market because of that clarity and simplicity, then that is a lesson learned for everybody else to make sure that our products are accessible and clear to those consumers. I think there's probably more elements that are yet to really be talked about within the industry, and that is, okay, so you can sell a house and you can complete the sale of the house, but actually how much are you selling the house for relative to the price it was put on the market for? And that would be very interesting if we had more clarity about this, because that should enable customers to make a better choice about who they're going to work with. So it's not all about the upfront fee, it's about really how much money ends up in the consumer's pocket when they've finished the house, and how long it takes, that's right. So I've been doing a little bit of work on this and looking at how we perform relative to our local competitors in the areas we operate. And you know, we find actually we're selling houses for sort of between 1% and 4% more than our competitors, be that online or high street, because we've got that person very, very close to both the buyer and the seller. And we can negotiate better sales deals and get them.
But how do you get that message out there? That's
Well,
the
that
difficulty,
is the difficulty,
and a message that consumers will
Yep.
trust as well.
Well, that's right, because you can only sell a house once, so you can't sell it with one agent and go and sell it with another one and see who's best. So you have to build a data set which enables some supporting arguments about the fact that historically and repeatedly these are the results that we're able to achieve. And if you choose somebody else that's cheap and cheerful and isn't getting the sales results, that's fine, you can do that. You can go down the high street, you can go down hybrid, but you know, it is more of a decision about just the upfront price. But it is a hard message to sell.
Yes, absolutely.
I don't think it's as clear cut as that. I think, you know, what I found from my own experience actually is that there are some excellent high street agents and there are some really poor high street agents. So you can be in a chain of 7, 8, 9 properties and there might be 2 or 3 agents in the chain who are talking to each other. Everyone else is nowhere to be seen, and that could be online, could be high street. So I don't think it's a case of just saying the online people are causing a problem in progression. There are some very, very good and exceptionally good and helpful high street agents, and there are some very poor ones as well. I mean, it's kind of, you know, a bit of a marketing wrapper around what they do, isn't it? To say that they don't charge commission, but yet there is a compulsory fee payable is, you know, they've been canned by the ASA a number of times for not making it clear that there is a fee payable regardless. But to compare that and try and educate consumers wrongly that means that they're not having to pay a commission is exceptionally misleading, and it's not very helpful to anybody,
No,
I don't think.
absolutely not.
Well, I think, you know, you've got many industries where, you know, in fact, there's lots of markets, clothing, holidays, airlines, you know, where you've either got people going down the budget route or premium, and the middle ground is disappearing. So if you're going to go down the budget route, you've got to strip out cost in order to become profitable. So therefore, people are experiencing now that when you've got a stripped out service, you're not getting the kind of care and support that you'd get from traditional or hybrid agents. You know, where we're trying to position EweMove is more of the quality end of the market, because we're charging premium fees, we're making a profit, and you know, our franchisees are making good money as well because we deliver a high quality service. So, you know, we are not in any sense trying to dismantle our service to try and make it profitable at a budget end, because that's not what our brand is all about. So
to
I think,
what extent, though, have you been squeezed because of the current environment we're in?
well, there is pressure on fees, of course, but in actual fact, what we're trying to do is actually build in more service to support the fees we're charging, rather than strip the service back to warrant a lower fee. Well, within a franchise operation, we don't really have too much of an issue, so we train people very carefully to the highest standards. So not all of our local franchisees will be NAEA qualified. We do encourage them to do that, and I would actually like it to be compulsory so that we can force people through that training program or something similar. So the fact is they don't have to be, but as a responsible franchisor, we make sure they are operating to the right kind of standards. On the rental side, I think that's where technology comes into play, and also service offering. So for tenants, they can apply online 24/7. They can speak to us, chat. Thanks, Andy from Yomdale, 24/7. They can speak to us on the phone 24/7. So and they are, of course, in touch directly with the local franchisee who's there to deal with, you know, repair, maintenance issues, whatever it might be. But I think the younger audience do like to communicate remotely rather than actually picking the phone up and speaking to somebody.
They don't want you in their front room.
No, they just want problems
if they
sorted.
Have one.
Yeah, that's right. And they do want to be looked after, and I think sometimes tenants get a rough deal because not all agents treat them with the same level of respect they would perhaps a seller. But they are there, they're earning you money, you know, if you're managing a property, and they do need to be looked after. And, you know, the longer that tenant can stay in the property, the better it is for the landlord, for his investment as well, his or her. So we do have a responsibility to look after tenants properly, and making solutions available for them to do so is the right thing to do.